Normies all dress like sheep. I am enlightened and look for unique styles. NPCs from America dress to look like other NPCs from America. I dress using interesting cultural references. Bots dress in clothes made in China or Bangladesh or Vietnam. I wear stuff that's made sustainably and ethically. Losers buy from the same massive brands everyone else does. I look for high quality and craftsmanship from skilled designers. Most people want to look like everyone else. I want to be an individual. You may think this is a preamble to tell you why Hermes is the best fashion brand, or maybe Chrome Hearts, right? Think about the words and phrases I just used. Unique styles, interesting references, ethical, quality and craftsmanship, individuality. Of course, I must be talking about one of these high-end designers, right? Wrong, big wrong, bucko. You got me pegged, all wrong. Okay, so there must be some cool new Italian or New York brand picking up steam. Still, incorrect. Get it together before you fall off the wave, bro. Today, I am talking about designers from the places we don't talk about when we talk about fashion. The forgotten realms, the untapped fashion ore that can turn to gold, baby. So where do we think of fashion traditionally existing? New York and Paris, for sure. Milan, Los Angeles, London. I want you to forget every single one of those. They don't exist to us. They're fired, okay? Today, I want to tell you about clothes from the Middle East, from Eastern Europe, from these places that usually aren't even on our radar when we talk about fashion. And you may be saying to yourself, great, he's entering his caftan era. I'm outta here. No. I know I called you a bucko earlier, but I didn't mean it, okay? Stick with me. No, today we are talking about designer clothing from these faraway lands that fit perfectly well into my existing aesthetic and may fit into yours as well. These are pieces made with the same level of intention and attention to detail that we expect of our favorite Western brands. You may be thinking, there's no way an Eastern European could design fashion as well as someone from Paris, but that's just racist, okay? You're racist for thinking that. You have defiled the race of Eastern Europe. And the Middle East? Get out of here. What, are they designing accessories for your camel? Again, that's very offensive what you just said. I'm gonna pretend you didn't say it, but please check yourself in the future, good lord. However, there is a valid question here. Why would you buy from a designer located outside one of the major fashion countries or regions? First, it's just good for you, man. It's good to get out of your local bubble and broaden your horizons. Especially since the modern internet took over, we in the West have been very homogenized from a fashion perspective. Outside of climate-related dress, I'm probably not dressing any different than a similar dude in LA or Paris, even though I'm thousands of miles away from both. Global fashion gives you an opportunity to experience things that are outside of the fashion hegemony and provides you with pieces that have legitimate reason to be different. Another reason related to that is that the further you get from fashion capitals, the less beholden you are to trends. I know this very well myself. I'm in the Northeast. I'm near enough to New York to go there often and see what the cool people are wearing, right? But also far enough that I can experience the de-trending as I get further away from this city. Imagine the trend freedom you might be able to experience if you're hundreds or thousands of miles away from a fashion capital. Is it freeing, or do you feel kind of unmoored from the zeitgeist in a negative way? I don't know, but what an interesting thing to explore, right? You also get to experience pieces with a truly different intent. Places around the globe speak in a very different fashion language than New York or Paris. There's a reason Middle Eastern people often wear more flowing, thin fabric than the West. They need it to feel more comfortable. There's a reason a Russian may make something very heavy. All pieces are made the way they are for a reason, and those reasons can be very different the further you get from the usual spots. And finally, there's price. The inflation within luxury fashion has been, just absolutely nutso bonkers, wow, woo, just crazy, okay, over the past few years. people interested in that realm, people like me and maybe you, people who don't have trust funds or cushy finance jobs, we're having a harder and harder time keeping up with the pace of pricing. And pricing for global clothing is often lower because the cost of living is lower and wages are lower as well. And for big brands and fast fashion brands, right, seeing that is a warning sign when you see something made in a more far out global country, especially the global south and the east, right? But if you're buying from a small independent designer from around the globe somewhere, they know what they need to charge to live comfortably, and they are much less likely to be exploiting workers in the process. But due to that lower cost of living I mentioned, they can pass those lower costs onto you as the consumer. And I don't know about you, but that's very attractive to me as someone who doesn't have a bottomless pit of money. And fashion provides an inroad to understand culture. Designers living in former Soviet states have had very different life experiences than most of us. The Middle East maybe even more so in recent decades, and artists' work is obviously influenced by life experiences, so it can give you a new lens to look at the world through. I remember how mind-blown the fashion community was when you saw the Eastern Bloc fashion wave start to rise up in the mid-2010s. People like Gosha Rubchinsky or the Vasalia brothers at Vetements and later Balenciaga, they were approaching fashion from an angle that was unfamiliar to a Western audience, and it gave the entire thing so much more like pathos, right? Knowing that it wasn't just posturing from some New York fashion school brat. All right. It is probably about time I tell you what we're looking at today, huh? Well, I have 4 pieces from 3 brands. Yes, I know how to count on my fingies, and each one of those brands is located in a region that we don't usually think of when we think about designer fashion. Look, I have an absolutely insane avant-garde pair of boots from the Polish brand Enrage. I have a pair of crazy one-of-one custom flare jeans from the Russian designer Kotlovin Atelier. And finally, I have a hoodie and a pair of jeans from the Israeli brand Andrusia. Yeah, Israel, okay? You ready to get spicy? I don't think I'm ready to get spicy like that, but I guess it's happening whether we like it or not. So, we're going to look at all these pieces. We'll look at the details, the similarities, and differences to the Western brands we're accustomed to, and we'll see what we can glean about these cultural and regional differences held within. And finally, of course, we'll try them all on for a fit. Let's dive in. Hey, where are you? Listen, I just wanted to tell you, you need to join the Patreon if you want exclusive Discord access, if you want an exclusive video every month, if you want exclusive deals on stuff I featured on the channel, if you want to be shouted out in videos like Flood, Repost, and Henry, join the Patreon. Holy shit, we have such an insane pile here. Oh my god, okay. We've got jeans, hoodie, jeans, boots. It goes so crazy, but I want to start off first with the brand from Israel. They are called Andrusia. And the stuff they sent is really cool. They reached out to me, and I took a look at their page, and I was quite impressed by it. I mean, these are kids doing cut and sew, kind of punk, goth, rave-inspired pieces in a war-torn country. So interesting, right? So let's start with the jeans. Let's hang them up. Okay, I can get down with that. Very, very cool, kind of like paneled or just interestingly seamed pair of denim jeans here, almost like harnessy looking. Very cool. So the brand, right, Andrusia, and these kids, they are really making pieces that reflect the climate that they're living within. Obviously, there is an entire history of politics within the Middle East that I am not going to get into today, but a lot of people, right, see Israel, the country that these designers are from, as the aggressor in that geopolitical situation. But I personally, you can have your own opinions, I am not going to blame the citizens of the country for the actions of that government. And in fact, I think that their pieces are a really interesting reflection of the turmoil that they are living through right now. And just so you know, because I'm not like completely politically naive and dumb. I did talk to the designer behind this brand a bit about the politics and the global situation and things, and they certainly didn't express like outright support of what's going on. They seem horrified by it, just like kind of the rest of the world. And I'm sure you do have some unique perspectives on it by living through it, maybe ones that align or don't align with the Western view of things, the left-wing Western view of things, which is kind of what I line up with. But I definitely don't support immediately writing them off just because of the country that they come from. I think that's kind of backwards and really counterproductive to what we should be doing as a, conscious fashion community. So let's take a look at these jeans. I think these are a very nice choice for the denim itself, a really nice like twill going through, very like visible. And the wash is sick. It almost looks burnt to me. So it's got a kind of like chalky gray color to it, but then you've got these kind of patches up here where the wash or the treatment didn't fully take hold, and I think it really adds to the effect. You can also see they've deliberately distressed it just ever so slightly around the edges, I think really tastefully. But the biggest element is the paneling, because this is a very non-traditional cut for a pair of jeans, right? Most jeans, this would be a single piece of fabric and your seams would be down the sides. They have done a very different type of pattern here, and I think speaks to the kind of slightly more advanced level that they're working on than most like streetwear type brands, because this is a house-made pattern. You can't buy jeans off the shelf that look like this. They had to do some work to get here. So the main seam is going straight down the front of the leg. But then you've also got these that kind of like mirror the lines of a harness, like a fetishy type of thing, or just the lines of like where some boxer briefs or something would end. So you get a very kind of cool, like almost boy short going on just right here, And then almost like carpenter jeans, you've got this seam kind of going off at an angle here. So it does to me kind of mimic where you'd usually see that kind of like side piece in a double knee or carpenter jeans or something. And it's a very straight leg, kind of like wide straight leg. I'd say there's very little difference between the size at the thigh and the size at the ankle. Obviously it tapers, but not much. They've got the same button going on. This is like very similar to what Rick Owens uses. I'm down with that. And zip closure with a YKK zipper. I love zip closures. I prefer them to buttons. Andrusia, thank you. The back is super clean, and they've actually taken it even further. The back pockets, I'd say they're maybe a little bit small. We'll see how I feel about that later. But you get the leather patch at the back where they've stamped in quite lightly the brand name. And then instead of the single seam that we had at the front, each leg at the back gets a double seam going on. So that's a lot of sewing work going into this pair of jeans. It is very, very elevated from your normal pair of just straight leg denim jeans. These are a size 30, that's perfect, that's my size. And the tag right here, it's got their little, it's kind of like their logo, the cross, and it says, "The world has already ended, build something new." And whether they intend it or not, I have to see that as a reflection of the political climate that they live within. I'm sure it really does feel like that some days, and they're doing what they can through their art here to kind of get through it, make sense of it, things like that. And these are really made in Israel, so they're not sending them off to a partner factory in China or Pakistan or Vietnam or Turkey or whatever. They're cutting and sewing these in country. They're doing it right, All right, we've got one other piece from Andrusia, and that is this hoodie right here. I'm super excited to check this out. All right, so this is their kind of like main signature logo hoodie with raglan sleeves. We saw on the tag on the jeans that is their main visual motif. That is their like signifier, the cross with the chained person inside of it. That's intense. I will say that much. I mean, considering the history of what many of the people in Israel, their ancestors have lived through and things like that, it's reflective here. And I think they're digging deep into their own personal histories to bring this forth, and you can really feel it because it feels authentic to me. Like an American brand doing that does not hit nearly as hard as an Israeli brand, The print looks solid. I'm pretty sure this is screen printed and not DTG. Thank God. Screw DTG printing. Always screen print for the love of God, please. And it does have raglan sleeves. I will say I'm seeing a lot of similarities to the cut of this with ERD hoodies that I've owned. It's a very similar cut, but it looks like to me they've maybe cropped it a little bit more even than ERD does, which I like to see. I love a good crop. But, you know, I think they are kind of copying the goats of modern punk-inspired streetwear here with the cut. But it's a nice washed black, ribbed hems and cuffs, and a really beautiful terry on the inside. So I would say this is a pretty light GSM, like definitely lighter than an ERD hoodie. And that should give it more of like a drapey, soft, airy type of fit, like way less structured than your normal hoodie. So we'll see if that ends up being a good thing or a bad thing. The back has a really nice bit of text going down graphically, again, screen printed on. The brand name, Andrusia, going all the way down basically from neck to hem. I really like that. And then with this one, on a safety pin, they've actually included something really cool. So this is like an antique key. I believe they're real antique keys that then they had like a partner of theirs stamp in their logo in it. And that's just beautiful. I personally think this might be the coolest piece of the bunch because I know how hard it is to get stuff like this made. It's a very irregular thing to do that they had to find the right person with the right skills to do, and it looks really damn good. Double-sided, by the way, which just adds to the kind of like difficulty and cost of it. So I think they visually did a great job with these, and at least on the surface level, it looks like the craft is kind of holding up as well. The only things I've noticed so far, maybe that they could improve on, is the fabric for both is a little bit on the lighter side. So choosing some more like solid, hefty fabrics could make it feel a little bit more like premium. And then the only other pointer I'd have for them is to start adding around the edges some like brand tags, you know, poly bags, branded packaging, things like that, again, to elevate the experience and make the entire thing feel more luxurious. So that was the Israeli brand. Again, we're going all over the map here, and I do want to check these out because they're insane, but actually I want to check out what's underneath. This is a box by Enrage. And Enrage is a really cool brand. I've known about them for quite a long time. Actually, there was a guy that I talked to a lot. He was a Russian dude. He introduced me to them a long time ago. He ended up scamming me out of thousands of dollars, but that's a story for another day. But one good thing to come out of that relationship was me learning about Enrage, and it worked out so well. I was watching them throughout the process of making these boots, and I was like, damn, those look cool. And then they hit me up, and they were like, can we send you our boots? And I was like, hell fucking yes, you can. So this is what I got. It's in a really nice mailing bag, branded with the stars and the text. Again, going back to the last brand, this is the type of thing they could do to elevate the experience. It's a really good first impression to be like, ooh, that is a package from Enrage. You know what I mean? And inside this box are the Paradox boots, but they actually sent this. Let's see what they had to say. The Paradox boots by Enrage. I think it's a fitting name too. We'll get to that later, but we're proud to share with you our first shoes ever to hit the shelves. That's crazy. They've been around for a long time. They've done a lot of different types of products, but these are their first shoes. So we'll see how they pulled it off. Over the past 3 years, we have tried making over 6 models, brand DNA rooted in music, cinema, and teenage subcultures. So thank you, Enrage, for sending these. I'm legitimately really excited for these. So these are the Paradox boots in a size 43, fall winter 24. Love to see it. And they are 100% cowhide leather made in Portugal. So they went to a solid country for making shoes. They used the right material, seemingly. I can tell why they spent so much time on it because it looks like they really wanted to go out of their way to make a good product here. And let's see if they lived up to that. So inside this box are the Paradox boots, underneath the stock paper, yada, yada, yada. Whew. Okay, let's get these out. Oh, the smell of leather is hitting me. That's so good. Oh my God, these are crazy, dude. I don't know if you understand how crazy they are. So the first thing that hits me is kind of like a ski boot type of style. Like that's the silhouette I'm getting here. So that's kind of a Balenciaga type of thing, but then with some heavy, like dark avant-garde Rick Owens type elements coming in as well. So it's kind of hitting that midpoint of like opium and punk and rave and luxury. It's hitting a lot of really interesting notes. And this is where I think the Paradox boot name comes from, because you see them and they just don't make sense. Like, what is happening with this leather? How are they getting a shape out of it? They're crazy. They really are. So we now know from the packaging that this is cowhide leather that they have manipulated somehow into the midsole in these very cool little bunches going on here. And obviously they've done it very, very carefully. There's kind of a method to the madness. It's done with some sort of intention here to create a very, very unique and interesting shape. So it kind of feels to me like there is a form in there, like there is a mid layer that this kind of soft leather outer is manipulated around. That's really cool. And this is how it's kind of constructed, is it's a piece here, right? And then another piece that kind of comes in like an L over here. What an interesting way to put it together, right? And then they've got little lace loops right here that are sewn in, and these waxed kind of like army green laces that go around a couple times, very, very Rick Owens style. But I'm not mad about it at all because Rick has never done anything like this. This is like not a direct Rick ripoff in any way, shape, or form. They've actually done a unique silhouette here. How rare is it for a brand to do something that you haven't seen before? It's exciting. It really is. And here's where I'll say that Enrage, they are from Poland. So that is not a country with like a rich, rich heritage of luxury fashion or anything, but it is that kind of area of Eastern Europe where you see some really interesting designers come out of it. Because obviously you're coming out of like the Soviet states, right? You're in that area, and there's a lot of kind of upheaval that's happened in that era over the past few decades, and it's created a unique cultural history that leads to some really cool, almost like utilitarian type of dress, which I think they're tapping into here. A little bit of a heel going on here, and then some really cool lugs down at the bottom. And they really have pulled out all the stops here, because in silver, they've got the brand, model number, size, where it was made, and look at that leather. They really chose some good materials for these. I'm incredibly impressed by what they've pulled off here. This is their first shoe. That's insane. And I don't see any like cement going around the side, so I have to assume that these really are stitched down. So a step above like your normal kind of bottom tier pair of boots, which is a good sign as well. By the looks of it, this all checks out really, really well. They've done a great job with these. I just need to know how they look and how they fit. Oh man, these ones really excite me. All right, the final leg of our trip around the world here comes from a designer that we've featured once before on the channel. He is called Kotlovin Atelier, and he is a Russian madman that does things with denim that very few other people are doing right now, and doing it at a very competitive price. So I had a pair that I got from him some time ago. These are the Sahara flares, and they're some of my favorite jeans that I've ever owned. But I bought those almost a year ago, and I've been keeping up with him, and he just keeps getting better and better, doing more complex things, throwing new ideas in. He's just developing as a designer and a craftsman really, really rapidly. So I saw this pair up on his site and knew I had to have them. And this is one, I bought them for full price. He has never offered me a discount. I've never asked for a discount. I buy them because I legitimately really like them. So let's get these hung up. So this right here is a crazy pair of mud wash flare denim jeans, and it's like the ones you just saw, but taken up another level. There are some new elements here that he's doing that I just adore. So starting at the top here, the wash is so sick. It's like a deep, deep brown, like pure mud, you know? I love that. He has started adding in, it looks like to most or even all of his jeans now, he's including this like bike chain, wallet chain. And I think that's a great way to, again, elevate that experience, bring it up a notch and make it more enticing. And I think it makes it like, you see this and you can be like, oh, that's a Kotlovin Atelier piece. He includes those with these. Great idea. And he's done a few things right up top here. So what he's doing actually is he's taking Levi's and he is modifying them. So he's not making these from scratch, but I don't think he necessarily needs to. He's clearly doing his work here. He's getting his money's worth out of these, okay? So around the first pocket, we've got some nice studs here. That's a kind of classic, kind of archive fashion type of motif. No issues there. And then at the other pocket, these really, really cool stitches going on. They're kind of hard, like canvasy feeling. I think that's another great touch. And the two juxtapose really well with each other. And heading down, you can see where he starts to cut and sew. Well, heavily distressed, first of all, but This is kind of like your main pair of jeans, I'm guessing, this bit. But then he's extending them and flaring them by tearing up other jeans and cutting them in new panels. So he's starting to widen the legs here, and these are unwashed. So he's doing these all in kind of parts and really intelligently putting them together like this. But then down here, you do get the wash, sick. And finally, you get down to the leg. And first off, he has stitched down a very like raw-edged Maltese cross. And this is a motif, a visual element that I have criticized somewhat recently, other brands for doing. And listen, I'll be real, it is played out. But first of all, a Russian doing it, it feels a bit more ownable, right? Because the Maltese cross is historically a Prussian thing. But then also, it's a little bit more palatable when it is like an artisan doing it in a one-of-one type of way. Like, this isn't just a brand printing a ton of Maltese crosses, iron crosses on t-shirts. Like, this is a handmade, hand-sewn one that has a little bit more historical relevance to the designer and the region that he's from. So I don't love it. It's a little bit unoriginal, but that's kind of what he's doing here. He's taking some sort of unoriginal element and throwing them in a very original way. So I forgive it, basically. He is doing some really, really cool stuff at the hems. Let's check this out, because it's so layered. There's so many different panels to it, and then left raw at the end. He's putting in work over here. You know what I mean? Really cool unwashed panel right here that is sewn in. That's so interesting. It's these little choices. They're very singular and very unique and very artistic, you know? And one really cool thing about all of this hemming that he's doing is it does help a bit with heel bite, I would say. And I'm curious to see how these wear over time. And the back, dude, is on another level. Again, there's some crazy details here. This dude does work, man. First of all, at the back patch, thanks, brother. You threw my name in. Appreciate it. You can see it's kind of like Boro stitched over it. The pockets have an absolutely insane, unhinged wash going on around them. I don't understand how he did this, nor do I need to. I just think it looks really cool, and the rawness, it's great. He's cooking right here, you know? So Kotlovan Atelier, I'd encourage you to check him out. I think he's just a really creative dude, and he's cranking out some incredible, incredible denim pieces. All right, these pieces are crazy. I'm so excited. But we've got all these pieces from all over the world. They all look really cool, but do they look good on me? Would they look good, fit well on you? So let's see what we're gonna wear these with. All right, I am so psyched to try this stuff on. We're taking a trip around the world. How often do you get to do that? But let's start right off the bat with our Israeli brand. Very controversial, right? Andrusia. One of those. So first we're gonna throw on these jeans. Putting it on right away, I noticed the zip fly makes it so much easier and more comfortable for me to get on and off. I just prefer it so much. I know it's cheaper, but it's better. And right away, you get into the unique elements of a Middle Eastern, like punk influenced fashion brand here. Because the weight of this, it feels lighter than what you would expect from a pair of jeans with this cut. I would just expect something like very like workmanlike and heavy. But designers are a product of their environment. Like ERD, they are a brand that is tailor-made for Western Europeans or North Americans. Like that's the climate they're for. These are for a Middle Eastern climate. And also just the general design aesthetics of the area are much lighter and much flowier, and that carries into these jeans. Because they are lighter and more breathable than what I feel like you would find from any American or Western European brand. But they also have like a stiffness, and that must come from the wash. And I don't mind it at all because the stiffness is making up for the lightness. You get what I mean? So the silhouette is holding up, and it isn't getting like a super light drapey sort of thing, which would not work for this. So I think this is really, really smart. As far as the fit and the silhouette go, it actually reminds me quite a bit of like modern era Acne Studios or something, and I would say that's a high compliment. But you can tell a lot of work goes into these. They put a lot of thought into it because these jeans have like 18 more panels than a normal pair of jeans. There's so much more work to make these. But I love the light distressing. I love the unevenness in the wash. I love this kind of like chalky gray color. I think they've done a wonderful job on these. My only note is that At the back, the pockets are like a little bit small. I don't know, I just want more space in those back pockets, you know? But that is such a small little grievance. I'm a huge fan of these, even more so than I was when I was just checking out the details. All right, let's move along. Let's check out the Enrage boots, the Paradox boots. And visually, these are absolutely insane. I can't even begin to wrap my head around how they fit, how they stay on. This doesn't make any sense. Let's put them on. And oh my God, the Mad Lads pulled it off. They actually fit. They actually feel good. Actually, like for small brands doing their first pairs of shoes, the biggest thing I usually notice is it's really hard to get the fit of footwear right. But they pulled it off. The fit of these is a perfect, true to size, down the middle, size 43, which is what they are tagged as and what I asked for. So nailed it. That's actually very impressive to me. But the insoles, the step feels really incredible. They're comfy. I could see myself wearing these for long periods, and that's not something I would say about a lot of the designer footwear and boots that I own. The only thing I noticed, these are not like the highest super luxury pair of boots right here. There are some slightly less luxury elements to them. For instance, I noticed that the soles are kind of a softer rubber, actually very reminiscent to me of the 14th edition Elvis Punk boots that I own. So I'm going to assume that just like I've noticed with those, these will start to kind of shed the rubber from the soles as I wear them a few times, probably a bit quicker than, you know, a stacked leather pair of boots or something. So if you get these, they're gonna hold up great. You're gonna be able to wear them for a year or more, but you may someday need a resole, just saying. But like the look of these is unimpeachable. Like it is unreal to me that they would make these as their debut pair of footwear, because this does not feel like a young man's pair of boots. This feels like a grizzled, experienced, been in the game for a long time pair of boots. I would expect this as like seasons and seasons into their footwear design. So the fact they're coming out of the gate with these is really impressive to me, and I'm so excited to keep an eye on them and see what they do next with their footwear. I've already liked all of their, you know, clothing, their garments and things, but coming into footwear, I think they're coming in really smart. It is reminiscent of a Rick Owens, stuff like that, but it definitely has its own lane that it's in as well. I think they nailed it. All right, next up, we are going back to Israel, Andrusia, because we have got the raglan sleeve hoodie. But first, we gotta throw on some accessories. I'm gonna put on all of my rings. I'm also gonna put on probably the most, controversial piece I own, the piece that makes me the most uncomfortable wearing, and that is the New York Young Republican Club hat from Enrage de Primé. But all right, throwing on this hoodie, my God, Andrusia, you guys are interesting. The graphic is great. I love that they kind of went light on the ink. It gets a nice fade, a nice crack. They know what they're doing, and you can tell that. I will say, to me, this feels like a very close approximation to the Enrage de Primé raglan sleeve hoodies. Like I have the Psychic hoodie, and it reminds me quite a bit of that. But they've definitely made their own choices, and ones that are singular and unique and make sense for this brand and the area of the world they come from. Because again, this is much lighter. I would say this is like, listen, I'm not like a super heavy fabric guy. I'm gonna say it's like 40 GSM lighter than what ERD would do. And definitely just in general, lighter than what you would get from a hoodie from a Western brand. But that's the thing, this is not a Western brand. If you're in Israel and you wanna wear a hoodie, you probably don't want a super heavy one. So this is gonna be like a really nice, like transitional season change type of piece that it's perfect for those kind of like humps between the seasons in the West, you know? And we're coming up on spring, like way fast. So I'm gonna break this out very soon. But they've done some really unique, really singular stuff with the cut here. I mentioned the crop already, but also the sleeves, they're super dropped and billowy, right? At the kind of like biceps underneath in like the armpit area. And then they taper down to the wrists where they grab you. So I actually really enjoy this. Throwing up the hood, the one thing I noticed is that the hood is kind of like short. So when you put the hood all the way up, it kind of lifts up the shoulders and neck of the entire hoodie. And I have seen that from other brands as well. I think for some, it is a choice and they do it intentionally. For me, it's not my favorite thing. It just means I probably won't use the hood that much. So if I were to give a note, I'd say, you know, just make the hood a little bit bigger so it's a bit more relaxed when you pull it up. But minor complaint. This is quite an impressive piece as well. Basically, I think what we're learning so far is that these brands, these designers, just because they're not from like a fashion capital doesn't mean they can't compete. This stuff would be well at home in any boutique in the West, you know, an Essence or a Mr. Porter or the Webster, anything like that, these would fit for sure. And just to show the full fit, we'll do the ERD Christ Assemblage Bomber, and this is cool. It looks good for like a going out type of thing, but I think the proportions, as far as like a fit, don't make a ton of sense. So if you switch to something more like this Who Decides War denim like trench coat, you get a lot more good proportionality and layers going on here. So I would probably, for this, use a piece somewhat like this. And now, last but not least, the last piece we have to look at, we've got to switch out our jeans because we've got a piece from my favorite denim designer, the Russian madman Kotlovin Atelier. And this guy, he has only gotten better in the couple years that I've been following him, and he is improving rapidly. His stuff is really good at this point, and it's like also the most handmade of the bunch. It keeps a kind of, I don't know, DIY street essence to it that maybe some of these other pieces don't have. So throwing these on, whoo, this is a fit right here, you know, just the cut of these. Man, it's very like Japanese archive, of course, if 6 was 9, hysteric glamour, LGB, yada, yada, yada. The wash is incredible. There is some very high distressing up at the thigh, so you are showing some thigh. Keep that in mind if you're interested. But the flare is absolutely insane. I did not realize how big the leg opening was on these. It's full on bell bottoms, and I'm not complaining about it. I think it looks good, okay? But like the front of the leg is like almost coming over my toe. But the fit of these is incredible. The wear, everywhere that it is, makes perfect sense. And then he includes like the bike chain, wallet chain, which I think looks great. And of course, the sewn in iron cross patch. All of these things stack on top of each other to make a very, very in-your-face, loud, but impressive piece of clothing. And Kotlovin Atelier stuff is also incredibly affordable. I think these are like $200, which when you think about the work that goes into it is crazy. And of course, that is one of the biggest advantages of buying from an area that is maybe not as like financially well off in general as the West, is that the labor rates are different, material costs are different, and you can generally get these things cheaper than if you were to buy the exact same piece from an American or French designer, for instance. And throwing the Christ Assemblage Bomber on this one, I dig it. I think it works better on this. I would happily go out in this, but again, I'm like missing the layers, the proportions, you know? So if we were to throw on, let's say, a kind of like military coat by Balenciaga, we would be singing. I need to go out in a few minutes. I'm going out into the world. This is what I'm gonna wear. This exact fit you see right now is what I'm going out into the world in. I don't play, okay? I don't lie to you. This is my fit for the day now because I found it. I love it. So yeah, every single one of these pieces blew my mind kind of in a different way. I find myself very like humbled and impressed. And it kind of makes me feel silly for not widening my reach more, opening my eyes more, looking for more breadth in the areas of the designers that I follow, because if these tell me anything, it is that there is really great, incredible designer fashion all over the world if you're willing to look. And sometimes those pieces might be even better than the pieces you would find at home. All right, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Are there any brands from around the world that you're super into? What do you think of these pieces? Do they work for you? Do they not? Let me know down below. Like, comment, subscribe, do all these engagement-y things that help me in the YouTube algorithm. Join the Patreon, and I'll see you next time.